And morning, guys, or afternoon, wherever you get a chance to watch this here today. This is going to be our last ethics video on drug use, personal freedom, and harm. And so we want to finish up a couple of the ideas that we have here and kind of wrap this section up. Just a reminder to kind of curtail off yesterday, we have the harm principle, paternalism principle, and legal moralism. And so we need to touch on those three things because um, the government is going to outlaw certain drug use. So the question is going to be ethically, under what circumstances is the government justified in doing so? Again, if people can do what they want to do, how much freedom should they have, and where is it okay for the government to step in? We talked about harm yesterday and said that certainly the government should keep people from harming others. And I think that makes a lot of sense for all of us, that, we want laws to protect our individual safety when it comes to other people. We don't allow people to drink and drive cars. That is an illegal action because of the harm that it could inflict other people. So that certainly makes sense. And then we talked about decriminalization a little bit, and I'm not going to rehash that because we went over those things yesterday. Today, we want to talk about paternalism. Paternalism has this idea of a parent kind of in that word there. And it basically states that authorities are sometimes justified in limiting people's freedom to prevent them from harming themselves. Okay. The harm principle has to do with hurting others. Paternalism has to do with hurting yourself. Okay. Does the government have a responsibility to keep us as individuals from hurting ourselves? And this is a kind of a difficult question. To act paternally is to curtail a person's liberty for their own good, regardless of what the person's preferences are. For example, right now, my son is back here over my left shoulder doing his homework today. Eli, do you want to do homework today? Eli, he's writing a story, so he's having fun right now. Everything he does in homework is not always fun, but we want him to learn, want him to have good grades, and so we force him to do so. We keep him from being lazy and harming himself. We don't let them go play, in the front yard on the street without supervision. We don't let them play in the backyard unless the fence is closed. That's paternal. We're just trying to keep them from hurting themselves. People must be protected from freely and knowingly choosing to take drugs that then harm them. Because here's what happens. A person who is, strung out on meth cannot make good decisions for themselves anymore. Somebody else has to come in and help them with that. Somebody else has to kind of be that authority. I'm trying to keep that light from shining. Has to be that authority for them. Who should do that? And the paternalism argument says the government should do that. The government should come in and say, these are the things that are harmful, so we're going to stop that. The problem with this is, we remember not long ago, Mayor de Blasio in New York said, okay, we're going to outlaw large, big gulp drinks because they're full of sugar and they hurt people. Is that too far? How far can the government go with paternalism, I guess, is the question from an ethical standpoint only. And then moralism is a different idea. Moralism says the government is justified in curbing people's freedom in order to force them to obey moral rules. For a legal moralist, if it's immoral, then that makes it a crime. Abortion is a crime simply because it's immoral. Estimations of harm don't matter. It doesn't matter if you hurt yourself or don't hurt yourself. It's simply an immoral thing to do, so you should not do this thing. James Wilson, in your book, gives this quote that I thought was significant. Drug use is wrong because it's immoral, and it's immoral because it enslaves the mind and destroys the soul. We would agree with that last part. It can certainly have the potential to do that. Which drugs do that, though? Well, to the moralist, they kind of get to make those decisions. And our question comes back to something we've dealt with many times here in ethics this semester. Okay, whose morality? Who gets to make that decision? Who gets to say what's right and what's not right? Because, if that's the case, I'm going to go out and say, hey, let's get rid of abortion because I think it's this, or let's get rid of this, or let's add this back. And we start arguing about morality with no really place to plant our flag. Everybody has their own idea of what's moral and what's immoral. That can become rather difficult. It conflicts with our common sense beliefs and policies. Decriminalization supports supporters ask why drug use and not other kinds of behavior should be outlawed. We have a huge, pardon the pun, obesity problem. We have a lot more people in our country that are morbidly obese, that are actually contributing a drain on healthcare, a drain on lots of things because of these issues. Should we outlaw certain amounts of fast food or certain caloric intakes? You know, this is the problem with legal moralism, is that how far can you go? Al Mohler said on the briefing just this week, once the government steps into an arena, they very seldom ever step back out. That's why, like now, with some of the government controls that are coming in during this pandemic, there's a little bit of concern that, okay, when this pandemic is over, and it will be over at some point, are those government entities going to step out of these areas? Are they going to stop doing the things that they did before? And the answer is probably going to be no. And that's where moralism has a difficult agenda there. Want to go back and just have you zoom in on this. Paternalism is a big deal. It's a big idea. It's something that you're going to need to be familiar with as we go forward. Okay. And I believe that's it for this particular chapter. What I want us to do is we're going to do nothing else today. We're going to wrap it up for the week. Be sure you've gone back and listened to every lecture from this week, from this chapter. Be familiar with those. We're going to figure out some way to we're going to test over this. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do it. I know it's obviously not going to be exactly the same setup as we do at school, but we are going to have some sort of assessment on this to figure out how well you grasp the concepts and if we're good on these things in this chapter. I really miss you guys. I miss seventh period and getting together and hanging out and hearing some of your wacky ideas that you guys usually throw into our discussion, and miss getting mad and storming out too. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm mad at all you guys, but I really actually love you. So have a great weekend.